Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is Barbie Baptiste Gardner, and I'm joined with Natalie Lamb. Hi, Natalie.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Barbie.
Hello. Okay, so today we are going to discuss remorse about ending your marriage or deciding to divorce, and also having doubts about that. So, basically you saying, was this the right decision for my family? Did I do the right thing? Those are very common questions and concerns to ask yourself, to even discuss with your ex partner when you are closing this chapter of your life, whether you have decided I don't have feelings like this anymore for you, but you still have your family structure that you are about to make a significant life change with. So it's very common to ask yourself these questions and to even ask your partner this. So our first question, let's see. Did I make the right decision? Okay. So like I said, that's very, very common. Even if you don't have feelings for your partner, and the reason that I'm saying if you don't have feelings for your partner is because you might have, I think for a lot of people who've decided to divorce, to the outside world, it appears as if that just happened overnight. It appears as if maybe you guys just started having problems and now you're making a radical decision to end your marriage. And that is a lot of times not true. In doing my research for all of these platforms with divorce, what I commonly hear is that there have been years that people knew that that their marriage was not working anymore. So they did put in that time, even though they didn't vocalize it to everyone that they knew. That's your family, and you're still trying to make it work, of course. If there's kids in the picture, for them, you're trying to see, can we work through these things? So even though you might know for yourself that this marriage is just not the best thing for me, it's very common to put in all of the time to see if you can make it work, because you don't want to just haphazardly dismantle your family structure and start a new life if it's something that you have history with this person. There, even though we are having problems and deciding to divorce, there are reasons that you chose this person in your life. It doesn't even mean that you don't love them at all. It could just be something, and for me and for a lot of people, there's always this wondering, if I didn't do this, could we have worked it out? Especially if you ever hear of anyone who has circumstances where they had a rough patch, they had a rough time, and then they were able to work through it. Of course, we ask ourselves, maybe that could have been me. Maybe that could have been us. Maybe I gave up too soon. So, Natalie, what would you like to say?
Excuse me. I think that, hopefully if anyone's watching that's in the process of getting divorced or figuring out, should I get divorced, that you really give yourself that space to really go through it all. Like you were saying, this is the last thing you want to do haphazardly. It's the last thing you want to do just based on your emotion and feeling. You want to be able to be logical to a huge degree. Not that our emotions get pushed out of the side, but you want them to be somewhat balanced. And you really have to have peace with your decision. And you really want to be a good 95% sure that this is the step you want to take. Because the truth is, there's nothing you have to rush into. If you choose today, or if you choose 2 weeks from now, or if you choose 6 months from now, what's the big difference as far as just the grand scheme of things if you're not 100% sure that this is what you want, or let's say 95, because you are looking at a lot of stuff, and you want to make sure that you yourself, you can't control how your partner feels, right? You can't control his percentage or her percentage of where they are. You can control what yours is. So you need to have a certain amount of peace. So one, you don't have to escalate too far, right? You're reminding yourself of why you chose this, and you're looking at your lifetime with them, and there's been things that pushed you here. So keep that in the forefront, but also balance it with, that other side of, is this something we could work through? Are there things that we didn't try to make this work? I tell couples a lot of times, if I have one or both of them, that throw everything in the kitchen sink at it before you make this decision. Make sure that you came up to the part and did everything you could do to try to make it work, and that is so that you can have this piece that, there were times when I wasn't fully engaged. There were times when I, was acting the fool. It was never just one person in a marriage. One person could have the most outward show of foolery, but we always play a role because we're playing off of each other. So you yourself, you want to know, I gave it my all. I threw everything in there. This is not going to be able to work out for us. So now I can have some peace with it.
Can you think of when you're feeling this way? You all right?
My little throat, goodness. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, I'm finished.
Can you think of certain questions that are good to ask yourself? And you might say also ask your partner, or maybe you say don't ask your partner when you are feeling this way. When I'd say when you know that divorce is a stronger feeling, because that's why we're here, that you feel as though divorce is the right decision for you. And yes, what are things that you should ask yourself and maybe your partner?
Right. Start with yourself before you engage your partner.
Right.
But for yourself, you want to have a list of why this is not good for you anymore. So you're looking at emotionally, relationally, financially, spiritually, mentally. You're looking at all the different layers of what comprises us. So why is this not working for me? And then in some aspects, it may be working, right? And then other aspects, it may not be. You got to be 100% honest with the analysis, so that when you're making the decision, you're making it from a pure place, not just this place of this person is awful and I can't stand them and they're stupid and or they're mean or they're whatever. You want to make sure that you have your clarity, right? So you're looking at all those different components of why isn't this working for me, and in what ways is it working for me, right? Then you're trying to project a little bit as far as, what am I hoping to gain from this? So how is my life going to look different on all those levels now that I'm not going to be no longer with the person? Because you need to have some clarity of what you're hoping to gain from this ending.
Okay. I'm sorry. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, so I was trying to see if I could fix it. Okay, go ahead, Natalie. I'm sorry.
I think where I left off was that if you can't articulate on all those levels, then you need to pause, right? Now, let's say that you've already started the process and you didn't articulate all those. Now's a good time. You want to be really clear and sure as to why you're doing what you're doing. No time like the present, right? And let's say the divorce is final and you're joined in and you never went through all those questions. You can do it now because a lot of it is you having clarity. A lot of it, this is for you, right? If we're talking about you healing and growing from this, you got to be able to ask yourself the hard questions. You got to be able to say, this is where my missteps were. Oftentimes, the people that I have seen that have fared the best and have really healed through and grown through their divorce were people that were able to take personal accountability
I like
and able to analyze themselves in the process of it, right? Even if you had somebody that maybe cheated on you and you're like, I can't deal with that and I've got to go, you still need to look at your part because
right.
this is where you're going to grow. This is where it's going to help you. This is where you're going to see a bigger picture than just the foolery maybe you dealt with.
That's right.
And that's really, really important, right? Because once you're able to process through that, you're actually able to deal with the grieving process that occurs with divorce.
Right.
So that remorseful feeling is the losing of what you thought was going to maybe be for forever. Right? So that vasculating back and forth of, did I make the right decision? Could it have been different? Like all of that is normal because you got to work through the process of grief. And, you know, at the end of grief is acceptance of you saying, we did what we did. We messed up where we messed up. For us, we were able to repair it. I have to accept this is now part of what my destiny looks like. And now I can go on with it. But for you to get to that ending, you've got to do some work through the process to make sure that you can get to acceptance with clarity and with a little bit of freedom. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. How important do you think that it is if people are always saying, you know, I got divorced because of, you know, hard reasons. Someone cheated, there was abuse, just, you know, different reasons like that that seem relatable. But what about if you, from your experience, you seeing all the couples that you've seen over the years, what about people who don't have that dynamic? There's two people that were faithful, but you have someone who they have different standards and values, and like maybe a couple started off where, let's say one of them wasn't working, maybe the woman, and then she decided not only did she want to work, that she wanted a career. And then the husband, when they got together, they weren't on that path. So that he wasn't in alignment with her new beliefs as she grew in the marriage. What happens when you have something like that? And I've heard things as what might appear simplistic, but I can really understand it when one person is a homebody and one person is a travel person, and they do things separately, but there is that, you know, I don't want to travel without you. But the other person is, I don't want to travel. I'm good here because that's who they are. So how important and significant is that in deciding this is not for me because of a reason, you know, along those lines?
So that looks different, right? Because like I think we talked about before, people get divorced for a variety of reasons. It's not always the hard choices or bad people or that kind of thing, right? Sometimes it's just we are misaligned, and we probably were misaligned when we got married, and we thought that we could ride that storm and we could find a way to balance each other and accept the differences, and sometimes you can't, right? And that's when you really have to do hard personal work, right? And those are the couples that really should be in serious couples therapy, coaching, or whatever, in order to see if they're just misaligned and then you can get an alignment, right? Sometimes you can't. Sometimes life looks different. We change. What used to be important to us is no longer important, and now I have new things, and you don't agree with it. I've had couples, for example, who thought that they could live and be okay with not wanting children, and then one of them, the biological clock kicked in, and the other person never came up to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the decision is, do I live without a child for forever, or do I let this marriage end and find somebody that will give me children, right?
That's right.
That's a hard thing. It's not clear cut. It's not heavy, whatever. Now, of course, you have other stuff involved too, right? But it sometimes is those things underneath that cause a lot more tearing apart. And sometimes people can't put their finger on what's actually the tear apart. It's because our lives have changed, and I don't know how to deal with this kind of difference, right?
Right.
In reality, could you, for things like that, could you make amends with it, right? Could you say, I could live without this? Could you say, like in your example, I could travel alone and be super cool when we're home because we kind of get along otherwise? Could you adjust to a now career-minded woman when you thought that you had someone that was going to kind of be more, lack of a better word, underneath you, where you were the main person that was kind of running things? Yeah, you could, but it doesn't mean everyone can.
That's
so
right.
Is you asking yourself then those really hard questions, right? Of is this worth it?
Yeah.
And then, if you decide it's worth it, you still got to work through the vacillating back and forth, because what you hope to gain from leaving that person may not be exactly what you get. So then you will have some remorse, and then you may have some doubts as far as, did I make the right decision? Was this worth it? And that's stuff you're going to have to grapple with. But there's no one hard rule for any of this, because we're unique people with unique situations and all kinds of things that lead us to this, fork in the road of, do I stay or do I leave? And you got to look at the road that led both of you guys here, and not compare or contrast with anyone else, because you guys are unique in your situation. No matter what the outside thing looks like, cheated, married, money issues, out of alignment, child thing, what led you here may sound the same, but your roads are paved with a whole lot of different bricks than anybody else's. You got to take this individually.
And I think that in agreement with what you're saying, the self-work is so crucial and important in this, because although, I want people to be happy and in love, and I want marriages to work, and they're by no means, an easy road. If you're not being true to yourself, then it's going to feed into every single thing that you do, and it's going to feed into how you treat your partner. And that's not fair to them nor to yourself. So I've met people who have, had years and years of marriage, and I feel like I feel like that is the label that we get so into of how many years. But when we look at what type of marriage it was, when we look at how angry and how upset, somebody was with their spouse, and then that goes into that's not their fault. You're making these decisions, and the accountability, to echo what you said again, accountability and us doing the work with ourselves. And, of course, people don't want to hurt. There's situations where you don't want to hurt your partner, but you have to value yourself enough and respect yourself enough to say what you want is just as important as well. the life that you live. And, in addition to all of this, as we are looking at salvaging, our relationship, possibly just not breaking apart a marriage, there's so many people who move on if you do the work to help these situations. And even your ex-partner that you have no more feelings for in that way. In one respect, just if you're holding on just to say that you're married, then you're keeping them and you're keeping yourself from, a life of happiness that both of you could be experiencing by just owning up to this really is not working. So to be fixated under I'm married and I'm going to stay married, if that is the only thing, that is holding on for you have to look at the other options of happiness as well, things that could possibly be in your future. And even if you're not, finding, your own truth and happiness and living in that speaks volumes over living in a situation where you just don't want to be there. You don't want to be there and you're being cruel to someone else because you have resentment that's building, all of those things. So you absolutely have to think about that. It's not just about, oh, I'm divorced, now I have to be with someone else. That's actually even worse if you don't do the work. No, we're not talking about that right now. We'll get to that later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Natalie, did you want to say anything else before I ask you another question?
No, you can go to the next question.
Okay. What if you have decided, okay, this person has broken our vows, or, for whatever reason you decided to divorce, but you still have feelings for your ex? How do you handle that, work through that? Is that an indicator that you need to take a pause, or is that a common part of this?
So it's common, especially depending on the length of time you've been married. Having feelings and feeling love for someone doesn't disappear overnight. Some people forever love their ex, and loving and being able to have a good relationship with them, something that is really different. It's not the same thing. Because I love you means we can work this out, or because I love you, we can, stay together. It's not the same. You can love somebody and know that the best thing for both of you guys is for you guys not to be together because you're tearing each other apart.
Right.
So just the feeling of I love them, or I want the best for them, or something pleasant is not equal to this means we should be together, or this means that this can work out. It's just something that when you connect to somebody, when you have intimacy with somebody, those things tend to stay. Our hearts are really big, and we can hold a lot of people in them. And your ex gets to stay in your heart if that's where they are. You don't have to hate someone in order to divorce them. And that's where you get the nuances of the different reasons why people divorce. Sometimes, people can't stand the other person, and they have kicked them out of their heart. And other times that's not the case, because it depends on the reasons why we are getting divorced. So you want to look at not just your feelings, right, that emotional side of you, but you also were looking at the logical side of, we love each other, but we cannot do a relationship together.
That's
and
right.
These are the various reasons why, right? So it's okay if you keep the love, if that's where it stays, but that doesn't mean that it's going to work out.
Yes. Okay. Oh.
But then I'll say that's where you have to do a lot of some self-work and some honesty, because if your love for them keeps you vacillating and keeps you saying, well, maybe I should try, and maybe this is not the right decision, pause.
Yeah.
You know, pause for a moment and look at that and see if that's where you are, where you really are. And if you already have finished the divorce and now you're like, oh, this didn't work out the way I thought, or man, God, I still miss them, you know, or I wish that they were here. I remember that. You also have to check that stuff, because no marriage was all bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? Marriages are comprised of a lot of good and a lot of bad.
Right.
So you're going to be times when you have memories of the good times.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to miss some of the good times that you had. So it's okay for you to have that in there too. You don't have to try to throw that out. You can let that memory sit there. You can laugh about it. You can have some good feelings about it and still say, but the best thing for us was for us not to be together. So allow yourself the whole thing. Go ahead.
I think that what is also really important to recognize in this, when you have feelings, you know, for your ex, how Natalie and I are saying, do the self work and, you know, your own therapy, whatever is involved in you, because the thing about this is this: we all have different versions of what love is, and it doesn't mean that if you change and grow as a person that you didn't have love in that for your marriage and your ex-spouse. It doesn't mean that because you change or evolve. What it means is there might be things that your love language, the way that you say someone loves me, I mean, it could even be in, you know, we've seen it in negative ways if there's abuse, that you've seen levels of somebody hits me or somebody hit this person, and that to you is a sign of love. I know we're not talking about abuse in this segment, but I wanted to use something pretty strong for this example, because if you define that, that's what you've seen, that's what you saw in your environment growing up, then you'll see, oh, I keep having the pattern of people who do this to me. You have that pattern because you believe that that is love. So when you start to do the self-work and you start to understand your value, and then you know, okay, that doesn't mean love, what I thought, whatever the things are, that doesn't mean love. That's not a part of a love relationship. That's not going to be a part of my love relationship because I value myself too much, and I won't be with someone who also thinks that that is love. Then that is going to absolutely affect how you feel regarding whatever your situation was. That's going to adjust you wanting someone back oftentimes, if, you know, it doesn't have to be as strong as abuse. It could be someone who, you know, just is present in your home but doesn't treat you well, who, you know, has another life going on, but you know they're going to come home, and, you know, that's what you've seen. But now you know, oh, okay, I want a love situation where I am engaging with my partner. I want that. I know that exists. You know, I'm learning new things. Now I'm seeing other examples of love, and this feels right to me now. So now you craving what you had, if it's something that doesn't serve you in the best way, you won't be craving it because you value yourself, love yourself. And that is not love to you anymore. Does that make sense? That makes sense what I said.
No, right. I mean, it's so much of this, it really is you being able to have the honest assessment of the whole story, you know? And we all, well, hopefully, we're all growing and changing and picking up new ideas and learning new things about ourselves, about others, about relationships. Like all of that gets thrown into the mix of your marriage, you know. And sometimes when you throw all that stuff in the mix, the marriage that used to work stops working because there's new stuff in the mix. And we can't control necessarily when that happens or how it happens, because life is kind of this free fall that things come in, things go out. My assessments start looking different. So it's really you being able to ebb and flow with what life presents you as well. And
Right.
that's part of what, you know, we're talking about as far as you really, when you're talking about, I have outlining what we're, you know, the main topic of what we're talking about, of the remorse and the doubt, that starts getting quiet when I'm able to really, really have true assessment of why I've decided to be here today, why I've decided to make these decisions, and being honest about the fact there's going to be parts of it that you may doubt. There may be little parts of it that you say, I wonder if, but the overall was greater than those little doubts.
Right.
You know, yeah. So allow those to be and look at them, hold them in your hand, see where they take you, you know. But if this is where you are and this is where you feel you have to be or need to be, you're going to have to be able to quiet those as well.
And let's also, you know, I want to always honor our audience. I know there's people who are considering if divorce is right. There's people who are experiencing divorce, and there's people who have already divorced, but they are still working through the healing. So let me speak also, you know, to someone who might be considering this, or even if you have done it and you're realizing or still strongly thinking, maybe I didn't, you know, make the right decision. There's the flip side of this too. If you are someone who, you know, just acted out, you know, dramatically, erratically, and said, I want to end this, and you realize you really did have a good person, you know, you're not always divorcing because the other person was a bad person. There's other reasons. So, you know, maybe the growth needs to happen on your end. So that still goes back to what we're saying about, because it's not about you saying, actually, I made a mistake and this was a good person, I want to be back with them. But you're going to have the same situation if you don't do the work on yourself. So if you do the work on yourself and you see, I have these trigger points because of these type of situations that I grew up with, or that for some reason I think, you know, I'm scared, I don't want them to leave me, so I'll be the person to be defensive first. If you, you know, start to do that work and understand there are those things about yourself, then it's quite possible that, you know, things can be worked out. This is not just a space that, you know, we're saying divorce. Absolutely not. It's every person is in every situation is different. You know, just how we gave the examples for someone who's a homebody and someone who likes to travel or even go out. You know, sometimes that works. Sometimes you like that, you know, someone will be there and you know they're not in that setting. Sometimes the person at home likes that space. I mean, every situation is different. So I just want to say that. Don't ever say Natalie and Barbie told you that only this works. Okay, that's our disclaimer.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We are about the uniqueness of each individual and choosing what's best for you and your situation. And that's, listen, because at the end of this, you have to go home with yourself.
That's right.
At the end of this, you got to be able to look in the mirror and say, under the conditions I was in, with the information I had, with the assessments I made, this is the decision I made. And you have to own it. If by chance you do all that now because you didn't do it before, and you say, dang, I messed up, own that you messed up. Own that you made the wrong decision and you let a good person go that you could have maybe put the work in.
That's right.
Is there a possibility that y'all could rejoin? Maybe, but then that's on the other person too,
That's right.
right? You could have hurt them too bad, and they're like, nah, I don't know if I want to step in that water with you again. And
Right.
if that's the case, you're gonna have to forgive yourself. You're gonna have to learn from the decisions you made and learn how to make better decisions. Because I mean, if you by chance decide I really want to marry again, this is for everybody. You still are bringing yourself to a new marriage, and you need to do some work through. You need to do some healing. You've got to have some self-knowledge about you so that if you enter into another situation, you're not bringing your old self.
That's right.
You got to be a little different. You don't want the same thing again. And then why did you choose the person you chose? And all, I mean, this is a big, pill that you're swallowing that you got to get a lot of answers for. And that's like the hope of us doing this, is really to get you asking yourself questions. Is really to find your answers for your life so that you can actually change it and make it look different and be more peaceful, be more happy, be more loving, be more caring, be all of those things that we want from others that we need to be for ourselves as well. And that's where you quiet remorse. That's where you quiet the doubt. That if you made a bad decision, you can say, but guess what? Now I learned from that and I can make better decisions. Because we're not going to always get it right. And everyone that gets divorced doesn't always feel like, yeah, I made the right decision. This was the right thing. I'm so happy. Everything's working out now, and life is just beautiful since I got rid of the baggage of my ex. That's not the story for everybody. For some people it is, and kudos, but for a lot of people, that's not the story. And sometimes we don't want to step into that water because we don't want to look at why we made the decision. Was it a good decision? What aspects weren't good? Where did I have my emotions step in when I could have used some logic? Like, we don't want to look at all that, and we're like, just be okay with the divorce is what you did, but that's not how you get the best living life if you're not willing to do some self-analysis.
And really, really, really listen to yourself and, how you, and recognize how you feel, because those are really strong indicators. I really believe that, God puts that within us, or whoever you believe in. I believe in God, that He lets me know, even if something is hard in my life, that I have peace with the things that I'm supposed to be doing that are right for me. So, for me specifically, when I was at the end of my marriage, absolutely not the full marriage, but when I knew the divorce was something that I needed to highly consider, that was a very challenging time for me. So I remember, or because I'm a writer, I'll even see something that I wrote down and I'll recognize that person that was there. So I would say during that time, it was very tough and challenging for me. I didn't feel good. It was a series of, feeling bad. And then during divorce, even though this has been the most challenging time of my life, because I have children, it's not just me, and because I was starting over and lots of other, elements, you would think, even though it was the most challenging time, it was also the most rewarding time, because that's the time when I was doing the self-work, and I was honoring things that I wanted to do as a person and listening to those things. So even though I had hard days, moments, situations, I was a happier person overall, which really is different. It's different to be in a, just feeling bad every day and then going to a situation where you know you're supposed to be and you feel better about yourself, you feel happier, but you still have challenging times, but overall you feel better. And we have to honor that, because like Natalie and I said, we're not listening, directly to your one-on-one situation, but we all have that where we know within us what feels right and is right. And that doesn't mean you don't have questions, but it's important that you listen to your thoughts and your feelings about situations, if this is right for you.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the greater question is your peace level, more than happiness. Happiness can be a little fleeting, and happiness really is about perspective and all of that. But what kind of peace are you living in? Because you can have a lot of trouble and still have peace. You could be going through a lot of storms, but you still have a peace within your being that says it's gonna work out, it's gonna be okay, I'm gonna get to the other side of this. But I feel calm, I feel more assured, I feel like I can think, right? I feel like I can assess myself, right? Or get in touch with myself and even be able to hear myself. Because when it's a lot of noise going on, especially if we're living in a really chaotic space where there's just constant turmoil, there's constant friction, you're constantly not attuned with your own self, let alone with your partner, there's no peace. And peace is something that is worth everything.
Yep.
Even if that means that you're struggling financially, even if that means that your life looks totally different than what you thought it was going to look like, you can have peace and stuff. And that's one of the little things I tell couples that think about getting divorced is you have to be at peace with your decision. Like, look at everything that I spoke of before, but are you at peace? Because if you're still on this road and you're still on the storm, but there's no calm in you, there's something else you need to assess and look at. So, some of us never knew what peace was. Some people grew up without an ounce of peace, and all they know is chaos.
That's right.
So then you need chaos in order for you to feel normal. So what you have to do is then step out of that and say, what would it feel like to actually be in peace? Because peace is going to feel uncomfortable.
That's right.
So it's doing all that. Like, that's part of the work, right? What is my peace level? What does that feel like? Why am I uncomfortable when it's not stormy? Because sometimes that's why we add in extra grief or remorse or doubt, because I want to keep the chaos going in my life. This person has done X, Y, and Z. They're not for me. We need to separate. We're causing each other more harm than good. But why am I feeling this? So that's where you're looking at, like, do I need a little chaos? Do I need a little confusion? Do I need to fight with myself because I'm used to fighting? And now I have no one to fight with, so I got to fight with me?
Right.
Okay, let me breathe. Let me find where my peace level is so that I can really assess my remorse, really assess what I'm doubting and why I'm doubting. Like, I cannot emphasize enough the whys behind everything you do. You got to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I feeling this? Why is this coming out now? Because you've got to have these answers. And you're not going to always get them on the first interrogation of yourself, especially if you're not used to doing this kind of work. Right. It's going to take time for you to even level up to your own honesty, because we live with a lot of self-deception. So I've got to be able to ask myself the tough questions, but I got to be able to make space for me to answer them with full, total, authentic honesty. And that takes some work to actually get there. So when we're talking about the grief and the remorse and the doubt of everything, put yourself out there and really look in the mirror and see where you stand. That, did I make the right decision? No, I didn't make it. Is there a way that I can find some way to reconcile? Okay, go that route to see. no, I did make the right decision, right? This
Right.
is where I'm supposed to be. Now I just have to deal with the outfall or the fallout from the decision that I made. And it's not going to always be peaceful. And it's not going to always feel good. But I'm okay with where I am today. And that's where we got to get to.
Yeah, that is so important what Natalie said. It's the peace, and then it's being aware of what you're familiar with and knowing, even though it's familiar, is that the thing that you should be involved with? Is that what's giving you peace, even though it's familiar? Absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I agree. Okay. Let's see our next question. Okay. So if your partner has feelings for you, so we just discussed if you're still having feelings for your ex, we just discussed that. So now maybe you're at peace with knowing that you're okay in regards that you close that chapter, but maybe you are dealing with a partner that has feelings for you. So I keep tossing these to Natalie because
Yeah. So I mean, with that, okay, it's the same strategy if you have the feelings, right? And
yeah,
your partner is having the feelings. One, your partner has to grapple with their stuff, right? And
yeah,
they've got to figure out why they are where they are and everything that we said that you would have to do, right? If they're bringing that back to you and you need to ponder it, ponder it. Like, don't automatically throw everything out. Everything's worth a ponder. Everything's worth the question. Let me set it aside. And you don't have to give them, this is where you have to have really good boundaries, especially when you're getting divorced. You have somebody that still kind of wants you or still is willing to figure out if this is space. You do have to have really strong boundaries because you've got to decide what's coming in and what's going out. So with that, okay, you make the structure of, I hear what you're saying, we could talk about this, then you take yourself away and then you say, is this possible? With everything I know about them, right? And everything that we've been through together, is it really likely that we could be something other than what we have been, right?
yeah,
And if you say, well, maybe, you guys can do that without saying I'm definitely getting back together. You guys can do that on a trial thing and saying, let's see how different we could be with each other, right?
yeah,
That's in your communication. That's in how you deal with arguments. That's in how you deal with different ideas. That's in this question, right?
mm-hmm.
If we can't even make peace with us trying to see if we could do this again, it's a good chance it's not going to work out.
Yeah,
So your partner gets to have feelings for you for forever too.
yeah,
If that's where they are, if that's where the heart space is, they get to do that too. But
yeah,
that doesn't necessarily mean because they still have feelings for you that you need to let them back in. Because you guys still got here for a certain reason or reasons, we should
right,
say.
right,
So good. Let them have the feelings, and then give them the list of questions. Go do this work yourself. Let's see where we're at from there.
yeah,
And then we can decide. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so our last thing that I want to address is something that I've seen and heard come up is if your partner is fine with, not being with you. And I mean, clearly there's problems because you're choosing to divorce. But
Right.
I, the whole thing of feeling as if, well, we had this marriage. Didn't they love me? They're not even at all requesting to be back with me, or like, what does that mean about me? And, uh, shouldn't they at least be trying to be with me again, at least one time? Like, to hear that. So what do you think about that, Natalie?
I think that if you are extra hurt that they didn't fight for you, then that's where you really have to do your own assessment of why are you making this determine your value as a person.
Mm.
Yeah, everybody wants to. I mean, we all want to be wanted, right?
Right.
Underneath it all, it's partly why a lot of people get divorced because they don't feel wanted in the marriage,
Mm.
for whatever reason, right?
Right.
But is it a little kick if the person didn't fight a little bit for you, or at least said,
Yeah.
"Babe, you sure?" Or "Can we try?" Yeah, it's a little kick. It's a little kick. Like, let's be honest, that hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you really kind of step back and look at it, you're probably like, that's true to their form, right? And they could be doing that out of being vindictive. They
Yeah.
could be doing that out of just to give a little extra blow to you. Um, they could be doing that because they're mad at you for deciding that you wanted to leave them. So why would they give you the satisfaction of
Mm.
saying, hey, you know, ask me or come after me? Like, everybody has their own boundaries and their own set of rules.
Right.
You got to define yourself for yourself,
Right.
right? If you are sure this is where you're supposed to be, if you are confident that you made the right decision, yeah, let that kick hurt a little bit, right? Yeah, you can feel it, but
Yeah.
then say, okay, that's where it is. They don't want to fight, and why am I mad? Because is it because I have a question? Is it because I'm unsure about where I am? So it's looking at all of that to say, but do you secretly have a little tear, right? Because they didn't try to fight for you? Go on and shed your tear. Ain't nothing wrong with it.
And part of this
We
process
all are
is,
where we are, right?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
always
it's feeling all
changing,
of
and
it.
it's very common even for like years to pass and then someone to change. I mean, of course it doesn't have to happen, but this is part of divorce. It's just something that can happen, so don't be
Mm-hmm.
surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that sums up everything. Did you want to say anything else, Natalie?
No, I think I think everything we said, if you guys can go back and maybe grab some of those questions, of really doing the full analysis, no matter where you are in this process, right? Just thinking about it, started it, in the middle of it, it's been over for a while. You owe it to yourself to have clarity about the whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is that whomever you marry changes your destiny, be it if you stay together or you separate. Your destiny looks different because that person is in it or not in it.
That's
And
right.
you owe it to yourself to get a clear picture as to what that really looks like. And the clearer you have, the more puzzle pieces you've put together, the less remorse you have, the less doubt you have, the more peace you can make, even if you feel like I messed up. So give yourself the gift of asking yourself the questions, of processing yourself through this. 9 times out of 10, you probably need someone to help you with it, because it's very hard for us to be super honest with ourselves if someone's not pushing us to be. So that's
Right.
where it's good to get a little insight, get a different vantage point on your situation so that you can make peace with this, because from years to come, right, you want to have peace with it. People can carry the doubts of divorce and did I do the right thing and why. You can carry that for the entirety of your life. There's
Mm-hmm.
some people that never made peace with their divorce, be it if it was their choice, the other person's choice, be it for the right reasons, be it for the wrong reasons. You got to be able to make peace so that you can move forward. So do the work that you're needed for you to move forward, whatever that looks
Mm-hmm. Okay.
like. Yeah.
All right. So I hope that you got a lot out of this today. Remorse and doubts about whether or not you should divorce. And remember that if you're listening to this on our public page, that we do have a private group if you want to be a part of our community and interact with other people who have the same experiences with or in the same realm of considering or going through divorce. And if you are in our private group, please comment, and please, any questions you have about what you saw, Natalie and I are here for you. Okay. And it always helps someone else who is maybe feeling alone, that they see that other people are having the same challenges. So, that's really helpful to the community aspect. All right. You have an amazing day. Thank you for joining us.